Welcome to the first episode of the 10 Child Challenge. The premise of the challenge is to start with 10 children of a random age from 3 up to 12 years old. They will all have completely random traits, passions, and skills. From there, we can only recruit children, and anyone who reaches the age of 21 will have to permanently leave the colony. Robots are allowed, but slaves are not. The only way an adult can stay in the colony is if they're a prisoner. To achieve victory in this run, the children will have to research and build a rocket and launch everyone who is currently a colonist into space. The children are starting with very little food, but I have given them a pile of corn. For reasons. Without further ado, let's meet our child soldiers. Child colonists. Albert Bruce is a 7-year-old boy from a farming planet hundreds of light years away. The rest of the kids have started calling him Bruce. Lucas Guzik is a 4-year-old boy. The poor kid was an orphan. He didn't know his parents or what planet he was from. The rest of the kids call him Guzik. Ayaka Crosby is an 11-year-old girl. She was born to spacer parents and spent most of her childhood living on an orbital station. Everyone calls her Ayaka. Emmanuel Chung is a 9-year-old boy. He's got a bit of a bloodlust after spending the first several years of his life watching wartime holovids back on his home planet, which was ironically incredibly peaceful. The nickname Stumpy was something his parents gave him, and he kept it going here. Jamie Ryder is a 5-year-old girl. She was born on a desert planet to a pair of moisture farmers. Everyone around here just calls her Ryder. Una Raymond is an 11-year-old girl born to a pair of transhumanist body modders on an herb world. She's always wanted to follow in their footsteps. The rest of the kids call her Stench. Well, because she smells like oil and grease. Ala Duarte is a 9-year-old girl. She was born on Glitterworld and was being raised to become a Glitterworld surgeon until she was kidnapped. Somehow she ended up here with these kids. Everyone has taken to calling her Nag. Benjamin Schlier grew up on an herb world to a greenhouse tech and a roboticist. That's where he picked up his passion for plants and his desire for robot parts. The kids just call him Ben. Agnes Rachel grew up with a single parent who unfortunately passed away when she was only 5 years old. She was sent off to live with her grandmother, but somehow ended up here. The kids call her Ness. Vladimir Moody is a 5-year-old boy. He's a mysterious kid, and not much is known about his backstory. All anyone knows about him is that he's weird. Like, really weird. Now that we know our cast of characters, let's look towards getting them some shelter and some food. The hardest part of starting this challenge is keeping them all fed. It's incredibly difficult to feed 10 pawns, let alone 10 pawns who can barely work. Add on top of that the fact that there are several predators roaming the map, and you have a recipe for disaster. Don't worry though, we'll do everything we possibly can to keep these kids alive. If the children don't start cooking soon, they're going to run out of food and all starve to death. If they eat raw ingredients, they're all going to get food poisoning and waste all the nutrition they gather. Truth be told, they're probably going to get food poisoning anyway from the unclean room and the bad cooking skill, but for now, there's not much we can do about that. I think Ayaka is going to be our primary cook. Stench is the only one currently in construction, and unfortunately, just like everyone else, she has no idea what she's doing. I guess just smash things up for now until you figure it out. Stumpy and Ben are already busy at work planting rice for all the children. They have no idea what they're doing, but at least Ben lived his life up until now with parents who were quite proficient at anything agricultural related, so he's got enough confidence to pretend that he knows what he's doing. Stumpy's just following Ben's lead, copying whatever he does. It's working so far, and the rice is getting planted at least. First, let's get all that corn hauled in. They're going to be living off that stuff for the next, well, day or so. It's not going to last very long. There's a convenient ruin here to the south of where they started that at least has a few walls already built. So we'll start with that as a beginning shelter. At least this way, part of it will be non-flammable. Plus it comes with a few floors already installed. There's so many colonists to already take care of, and none of them can really do anything terribly well. Okay, let's start turning all this corn into meals. I don't want to make too many meals at once since we don't have any way to store them in the near future. That being said, I'm pretty sure they'll end up eating every single bit of food that we cook, so I'm not sure it matters too much. These stockpiles next to the fire will keep the ingredients nearby, so they don't have to walk to pick up cooking ingredients. Shelves are better for this, but stockpiles will work for now. Ideally, we need to get a cleaner cooking room set up that they can keep running 24 hours a day. Let's also set up a butcher spot outside, and try to get a table going for that as soon as possible. Ayaka has already started cooking corn. That's perfect. I'm going to set up a few temporary wooden walls just to create a room for the children to sleep in. I'll space them out slightly so we can build some stone walls inside, then deconstruct the wooden walls, leaving the stone walls in their proper place. We're also going to need some better doors. These stone doors are not going to cut it. We could leave these stone steels up, but I think it's better to deconstruct them and then use the marble for walls and floors. Alright, the room is almost finished. Just a couple more blocks, and then a roof, and we're set. Now they need a place to eat their cooked corn, or everyone's going to start getting upset. Food's going to be the biggest issue, and then immediately following that is going to be everyone's horrible moods. For now, every single colonist is going to take a penalty to mood from lack of education. Until we can get at least one 13-year-old in the colony, that penalty is going to stick around. Before then, we're going to have to do everything we possibly can to get mood bonuses and cancel out any penalties that we can. Since there are so many colonists, I think it makes sense to split them up and put half on a day schedule and half on a night schedule. Then we can have one cook working during the day and one during the night. A few more children can be put on plant cutting, I think. That way they can more quickly chop down nearby trees. They're going to be incredibly slow at it, but it should get done sooner or later. That way we'll have the resources to start making short bows. I think for now, every child should get a bow. That's actually a pretty frightening image. 10 children, all with their own little bow. Well, Bruce can start working on those. He'll be our primary crafter for now. While Bruce is hard at work crafting those short bows, Ness has had her 7th birthday and the first growth moment of the colony. I should say now that these growth moments are not going to be very good to begin with. They're going to have basically no education, and because of that, they won't be getting many passions, and the traits are generally going to be pretty bad. Well, if the choice is between greedy and cannibal, we have to take cannibal. On the bright side, it's not like she's going to be eating the other children. She just wonders what they taste like. Well, that's actually pretty creepy. At least she won't get an additional mood penalty. Unfortunately, it's only been a couple days and the children have already run out of food. They're going to have to start harvesting the nearby berries and hunt whatever they can. To make matters worse, there are several predators on the map that they cannot defend themselves against. And they're just awful at hunting. Hopefully they can at least get a few hits and let the larger animals bleed out. There is another option. They can sneak up and steal anything that the predators have hunted. Usually the wolves and wargs don't eat the entire animal after they kill it. If it's a larger animal, there should be quite a bit of meat left. It'll be dangerous, but it should be a bit more reliable than trying to hunt with a poor quality shortbow. Okay, let's start butchering the animals that we haul in. That will at least be a little bit of food to keep them alive for now. They actually did manage to take down a few alpacas with their short bows. Hopefully they can haul them in without angering the wolves. Since they're going to be surviving off meat alone for the next short while, I think it's important to get a butcher table up and try to get as much food off each animal as they possibly can. Well, it's nice to see a decent pile of meat next to the fire. With all these mouths to feed, it's still not going to last very long. It's time to name the colony. As an homage to Little Lamplight, we'll name our faction the Littles, and our settlement will be called Little Camp. We must keep things little. It's time to start expanding our shelter. I think the top priority is going to be to get a somewhat clean room going for cooking and storing food. We can also add a dining room adjacent to it. Those two rooms can attach to the southern wall of the building. There's a nice little spot to put it here. Everyone's mood is right down the middle and stable at the moment. This feels like the calm before the storm, because if I know anything about these child-only runs, it's going to get real bad real fast. Until then, let's enjoy this lovely calmness. Now would be a good time to start adding in more stone walls to replace the wood. Sooner or later these wood walls would get burned down, so it's better to get ahead of it. The stove is built, but they aren't going to be able to use it until the rest of the room gets built. It's probably also a good idea to try to get some kind of floor in place first. Let's take a look at what the children have been chatting about so far. Looks like Bruce is friends with every other child in the colony. Bruce and Guzik chatted about mandrills. It's interesting that mandrills aren't even a part of RimWorld, but maybe they exist in the core worlds. Bruce has been talking to Fearful the dog. Bruce talked to himself about eternity, and hoped the dog was listening. As a side note, we really need a new name for that dog. We haven't talked much about the dog yet, but Bruce has been busy training it to haul, and I guess chatting with it about subjects far too complex for either of them. Stench is also friends with every other child in the colony. It's nice to know the nickname Stench is a friendly one, not a hurtful one. Stench talked to Bruce about fighting raiders, and with Ayaka about practicing with javelins. At least she knows what kind of threats are out there waiting for them, and wants to be prepared. Then, her and Ness chatted about cute animals, so there's a good balance there. Looks like Ness is also friends with everyone in the colony. It's good to know all the children are at least mostly getting along. Ness and Vladimir spoke about sweating. Ben must have overheard it and immediately started talking about salty foods. Gotta keep those electrolytes up when sweating. Vladimir talked about death and core worlds with Nag, and joked about missiles with Guzik. Later on, Nag chatted with Vladimir about fighting vultures. Vlad's a bit odd, and his conversation topics seem to match that. These wooden walls can be torn down now. That's good timing because they're just about out of wood for refilling the campfire. They really need to switch over to using the stove soon, so they aren't just constantly burning wood. Now you can see just how punishing the Learning Star mood penalty is. -20 constantly is pretty terrible. Like I mentioned previously, there's really not much we can do about it until there's someone old enough to perform the childcare skill. They do occasionally get to fill up their education bar when their learning desire matches up with something that doesn't require an adult, but it doesn't happen often enough. The badly malnourished penalty is something we can deal with, but it'll be a constant struggle to stay on top of it for now. That grace period of good mood we were experiencing is starting to end, and several of the children are starting to drop to the dangerous range for mood. Let's hope we get lucky with the mood breaks. At this point, it's probably a good idea to set up some dedicated work hours for our two cooks. That way we can try to make sure there's always a cook on duty in order to maximize how much food we're making per day. For now, every bit of food that we're making is getting eaten right away. So far the predators are doing a great job keeping the colony fed, but it only takes a split second for that to go from convenient to one of our children getting eaten. It's usually not a very good idea to have children roaming the map while predators are out, but they don't have any choice at the moment. If one of the predators suddenly starts hunting a child, there's really nothing anyone else can do about it. If they're too close, they'll just die without a fight. So far, it's been a constant battle against starvation. Part of the current food issue is that the cooks are still using the single meal recipe. Let's switch that up so they're prioritizing the 4 meals at once recipe. That'll hopefully make their cooking slightly more efficient in terms of labor time. Ooh, that's not good. The animal corpses are already starting to rot. It's a good reminder that the colony will need a place to start dumping the rotten corpses. Let's place it up here, far enough away that it won't cause any issues, but not too far. We don't want them walking across the map. Oh, nice. They've decided to start a party. That mood boost could be incredibly useful. And almost immediately the party's cancelled because of a fire up by that zone we created. Should have seen that one coming. Let's turn off home auto expand so we don't have anything silly like that happen again in the future. It would be really nice to trade with a combat supplier, but the children have absolutely nothing to trade with them. May as well just send them off so they don't use our tables. Oh, another birthday has occurred. Nag has turned 10 years old and is having a growth moment. At least this one is given one halfway decent option. Ascetic's not necessarily the best trait in the game, but it's a lot better than Jealous and Teetotaler. So let's give Nag Ascetic. Alright, it's time to start replacing these sleeping spots with beds. They've got a lot of steel piling up, so let's go with steel beds. Better to get this all done with before the first illness hits the colony. Plus, the better rest effectiveness definitely won't hurt. The kitchen is coming along nicely. Just a few more walls and a light, and this thing will be ready to go. They'll just have to get the floor in whenever they can. For now, it's more important to get the stove operating. They can also take the time to start building a dining room. Normally, I would just keep the dining room part of the barracks, but the layout worked out nicely to have a dedicated dining area right next to the kitchen. Then when they get the power up and running, they can put a freezer just to the south of the kitchen and keep everything nice and compact. Almost 2 weeks have gone by, and so far there have been no major incidents. The predators have chosen to survive off deer and ibex rather than hunting the children. I'm not sure how long that'll last, but I'm thankful that none of the children have been eaten. They're really testing their luck by taking away the animal corpses not long after they're killed. But as of now, it's their primary means of staying fed. Now they can start moving all the dining furniture down into the new room. Soon they're going to need to start crafting some art to improve these rooms. The sooner the better. They really need to do something to keep their mood up, because for now, there's going to be a constant stream of minor and major breaks. Ooh, the new cooking stove never got on pause, so the cooks haven't been working. The starvation has really built up in that time, so they have some catch-up work to do. Hopefully the meat that has been stockpiled won't rot before it gets cooked. Let's set up a new zone around the colony that we can restrict the children to. The zone will keep them within running distance of safety if any of the predators decide to hunt them. If they get hunted at the edge of the map, they have no chance. If they get hunted just outside the doors, then at least there's a good chance they can retreat inside and the predator will look for something else to eat. That's the general idea at least. Whether or not it actually works, that's another matter. Now we can start having all the children move these chunks away from the walls. It's not great having so many immediately outside the walls since they'll slow movement speed and raiders will use them for cover. Ideally we need a spot inside the base that we can haul them to, but for now, they can be piled up out to the east. It's time to get floors installed in the kitchen. They do need more beds, but I think getting rid of the dirt floors in the kitchen takes a higher priority here. It shouldn't take much steel to finish anyway. Hopefully it helps with the cleanliness enough to make a difference to how often they experience food poisoning. Pretty much everyone's mood is now in the minor break range, and we're already starting to see breaks happening. At least they're minor and easily dealt with for now. Once the major ones start, then things might change a bit. With wonderful timing, a wolf has decided to hunt Ben. Luckily he was right next to the base, so there shouldn't be much risk of him being eaten. And right as Ben is retreating into the walls, he has snapped and decided to take his anger out on everyone else with an insulting spree. One of the other children is going to try to arrest, and there's not a great chance of success here. And Stench failed to arrest him, and a fight broke out. Thankfully, they were able to stop Ben before any permanent damage was sustained. There's always a very high risk for limb loss when a child takes damage since their limbs have such low HP compared to an adult. But in the end, there wasn't any choice here. Insulting sprees are incredibly punishing if you let them play out. The move penalty that it stacks on all of the pawns that receive an insult is enough to cause other breaks to occur, and then you get a cascading chain of breaks that can cause long-term problems in the colony. Not long after that fiasco, Stumpy had a growth moment. He's turning 10 years old today, and with it, he gets to choose a passion and a halfway decent trait. Anal passion is the only option, but it's pretty good given the situation. I'm definitely taking Fast Walker as the trait. Kind would have also been very good, but I think the extra movement speed could save his life one day. The timing of this is almost heartbreaking. Ben's older brother is passing by the colony, and Ben is still unconscious and recovering from his recent run-in with the rest of the children. Since the other children have absolutely zero clue that Ben even has an older brother on this planet, he's going to pass by like any other stranger. Ben is going to wake up and have no idea that his brother had passed by here recently, and the other children have no reason to even mention it to him, since random strangers seem to pass by quite frequently. It does make you wonder why none of the visitors have offered to help the children. Either the children have already collectively decided to commit to this way of living, or the visitors are simply unwilling to help. It is also possible that out of fear, they've kept communication with these other people to a minimum. I'm sure many of them do know that there are raiders and cannibals that live on this planet, so you can't really blame them for being afraid of strangers. Still though, I do wonder if Ben will ever find out about his near miss with his brother. After almost seeing Ben eaten by a wolf, the rest of the children have decided that through numbers alone, they have the ability to deal with the nearby predators. That and the traitor being present definitely doesn't hurt their confidence. With enough bowfire and the traitors intervening, they should at least be able to take out this one wolf. After the first attempt, not a single child managed to hit the wolf with an arrow. They really have no idea what they're doing with these bows. They are more for show than anything. After the second attempt, they still cannot seem to land a hit on the wolf. This really shows you just how much danger they're in out here, and are completely at the mercy of others. After that, they're going to have to just stay as far away from the wolves as possible. The plans for the kitchen and dining room floors have been in for a while now, and finally the children are getting around to finishing them. Other than Stench, there isn't really anyone else on construction, so these things tend to take quite a while to get finished. I guess the exotic goods trader did feel some pity for the children and left a gift. Not enough pity to rescue the children, but enough to leave them a recurve bow and a flame bow. I think this must be in response to how pitiful the children appeared trying to hit that wolf, so the traders helped in the way they thought most useful. Better weapons. Well, after all, you can't really give a kid a gun, can you? But a flame bow? That's definitely okay. I think. They've almost finished building enough beds for all the children. It's taken most of their steel to get 10 beds going, but that's okay. It's important enough to warrant investing that much steel. I think next up they need to start installing the rest of the floors in here. They haven't built the stonecutters yet, but they can at least start putting in any random stone blocks that they acquire. They already have a few in the stockpile. While the children are hard at work in the rice fields, which is a sentence I'm definitely not very comfortable with. At least their labor isn't being exploited by wealthy corporations. In this case, it's just going to survival, which is respectable. Unfortunately, it's not enough right now, and they aren't even coming close to producing enough rice for everyone. They're definitely going to need to expand this operation to get everyone fed. After watching just how terrible they are with the bows, I think it's appropriate to expand the trap defenses as much as we can. There's not a ton of steel, but putting in a couple more traps is going to be necessary to handle the early raids. They can't really receive much damage, and they can't really deal much damage, so they're going to have to rely on those traps. Oh great, now Nag is having an insulting spree. I know earlier I said the insulting sprees are too punishing to let them play out, but I'll be honest, it's such a huge risk to arrest at this point that I'm not sure I want to try it again. Let's try letting this one play out, and see just how bad it gets, and go from there. Ideally, a social fight will start and bring a quick end to the insults. Social fights can cause permanent damage too, but it does seem to happen less than a mass brawl putting down a berserk pawn. The insulting spree did come to an end with a social fight, and just as I had hoped, neither of the children involved suffered any permanent damage. It was Vladimir who finally had enough of it. I think he took the brunt of the insults. It looks like the mood of half the children is still in pretty rough shape, so we'll have to see if there's any lasting effect from the insult mood penalties. Let's take a look at what the children have been chatting about. It looks like Guzik is having trouble maintaining friendships with half the children here. So far he's only friends with Ness, Bruce, Stumpy, and Vladimir. Ayaka and Guzik talk about fine meals. I wonder what a fine meal is to a 5-year-old. Probably candy. Later on, Guzik and Ben chatted about guilty pleasures, which again, you have to wonder what a guilty pleasure is for a 5-year-old. Again, probably candy. It's unfortunate that we don't have any candy in the colony for them. At least Fearful has been a good dog and is keeping all the kids safe and relatively happy. He gently rubbed his nose against Guzik's arm. Good boy. Meanwhile, Vladimir has just turned 7 years old and has had his first growth moment in the colony. Unfortunately, the 3 trade options are not great, so we'll have to choose the least punishing and go a psychopath. Vladimir was already heading down a path that was painting him as the strange kid, but this only affirms it. He's the little psychopath in the colony. He's gonna have a hard time relating to the rest of the children and making friends. Let's check his recent conversations and see what he's been saying. Recently, Nag insulted Vladimir's crafting skill and called him a wasp. That was during Nag's insulting spree, so even if she didn't really mean it, you have to wonder if this was the catalyst that drove Vladimir towards being a little unhinged. It looks like after all that, Nag has become Vladimir's rival, and they really hate each other. I do feel a bit bad for Vladimir. As soon as he developed a bit of psychopathy, all of his friendships were ruined. Except with his dog Fearful, who he shares a bond with. It's strange because several of the children do like him, he just doesn't like them back. Only moments ago he was friends with Guzik and several others. I guess suddenly he's not much of a people person anymore. The colony's out of food, so they have no choice but to venture out and try to hunt to the best of their ability. There are still 5 predators on the map, so this is probably not the best idea. Let's have them hunt some donkey. Just for the record, I love donkeys and I hate hunting them in RimWorld, but the children are desperate and they don't have many options left to them. There are currently 2 extreme break risks in the colony, one on Stumpy and one on Vladimir. I really hope they don't end up trying to murder someone. Well, just as I start talking about it, Vladimir has gone catatonic. I guess that is the best possible outcome for an extreme break. At least he didn't try to murder someone. They did manage to bring some meat and berries back, so the food production is active again. They've been here for almost 20 days, and since the beginning, they've been either starving or on the verge of starvation. I'm sure they're all missing that corn by now. We should have done this earlier, but it's definitely past time to expand the grow zones. Let's double what's being grown, and go for 2 more large rice patches. Maybe this will help balance out food production and consumption a bit better. Well, that's not good. We got another catatonic child on our hands. This time it's Ayaka. We're going to have to pay close attention to make sure they're getting fed. Since the colony's already so low on food, the catatonic pawns will be very low on the feeding priority list, and if we aren't careful, they'll end up starving to death. The next growth moment has occurred, and this time it's Ryder. 3 terrible options. It's almost worth going no trait here, but I'd rather go with a trait that develops the story of the character a bit. And Teetotaler at least does that without massive penalty. So from now on, Ryder is anti-drugs and alcohol. Oh god, the poor donkeys. Let's not watch. Well, they've got a little bit of food, and mood is slowly starting to climb back up into manageable territory. Through all the struggle so far, I'm just glad that all the children have managed to stay alive. Usually in these child-only challenge runs, there's at least 1 or 2 casualties during the food struggle phase. I hate to say it, but I'm especially glad the dog is okay. Mostly because he's so useful for hauling, but that's beside the point. The malnutrition on the catatonic pawns is really building up, so they're going to have to make sure that they're constantly being fed from now on. At least for now, there's donkeys to eat. Hopefully Vladimir gets up soon, so there's only 1 catatonic child left to take care of. It looks like a transport pod has crashed just outside the colony, and they have a relationship with one of the children. It's Ryder's sister. We can't rescue her in case she decides to join, so instead we're going to put her in prison and release her after she heals up. I suppose it would be okay to rescue and then banish if she does decide to join, but somehow that feels stranger than just arresting and releasing. This feels more appropriate to represent the growing fervor the children are feeling towards a child-only life and against the adults of the world. They won't leave you to die, but if you're an adult, you're not welcome here. Unfortunately, there's no dedicated prison, so they'll just have to convert the barracks temporarily. Ayaka is in rough shape, so we're going to have to move her into the kitchen and make sure she gets fed. The prisoner's wounds are very minor, so she should be up and out of here in no time at all. Alright, there she goes. Ryder's sister may not be welcome to stay, but at least she didn't die. It's definitely going to be an awkward conversation when she gets back to the rest of the family and has to explain that she found Ryder living out in the wilderness with a bunch of children. I think this is really the moment that seals their new way of life. They're well and truly a colony of children. No adults allowed. That's the end of the first episode of the 10 Child Challenge. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on all future videos. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, please consider checking out my Patreon to help support the creation of more videos like this one. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.